Welcome to Your Healing Era, a podcast for artists, creatives, healers, anyone living outside the traditional mold who's searching beyond the conventional forms of healing. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and rate the podcast. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into today's episode. So welcome everyone to another episode. I'm really psyched to have today's guest. We have Kerri van Kirk. She's a healer, a coach, an energetic advisor for creatives, leaders, and spiritually minded business owners. She works with writers, artists, musicians, creatives, therapists, healers, embodiment leaders, performers, and she also is a multidisciplinary artist herself. Kerri is the founder of Will Work. Will Work is a potent mix of energy healing and coaching. It involves a lot of things, and we'll get to all of that stuff in our conversation, hopefully. So, hi, Kerri. Thanks for being on my podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Sweet. So, how are you? What's alive for you these days?
Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. I think the world is very loud right now. Yeah, I don't know if you want to put this in real time or not, but in real time, there's just been some like big national tragedies and lots of stuff around that. So I'm a big proponent of human design, and I'm an emotional authority, if anybody knows what that means, which means like I like to sleep on it. When I get an idea, I want to at least sleep on it before I move forward. And so I'm feeling like what I want to lead right now is actually bringing people together in Maine, where I live, or in the Northeast of the United States, to do like a meditation train where we have at least 4 people meditating for at least 12 to 16 hours of the day, if not 24 hours of the day, for the period of a month or maybe 3 months, and just like meditating on love and peace for the country.
Wow.
Because yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it really is. Wow, you're getting me emotional just hearing about this idea. Like, I love it.
Yeah, it came to me yesterday, and I was like, okay, I reached out to somebody. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. I think it's going to come together. It's been kind of in the back of my mind for a couple months, and I was like, okay, I think now's the time.
Yeah, we definitely could use a lot of love and people meditating on love, because people have been knowingly or unknowingly meditating on hate for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
So jumping from that into
I know, side tangent.
Well, no, it's not a tangent. It's like, it is really in the forefront. It feels like, especially with the murder of Charlie Kirk yesterday and everything. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to talk about your work. Will Work. This is something that you founded.
Mm-hmm.
So can we start with just a little bit about what Will Work is?
Yeah. I like to call it a healing and transformation modality, a synthesis, an approach that specializes in helping people that have been like struggling in an area for years or even decades. So I've been, creative coaching since 2017. I was like ghostwriting for other creative coaches before that. And I started to notice as I got into healing work as well that, some people would take in like a healing experience or a mindset shift or whatever, and they would be able to make progress, right? Like take it, run with it, their life changes. And then I would have clients, and also noticed in myself that there are some areas that it's like, it doesn't seem to work, right? Like you'll have some kind of a breakthrough or an insight, but when it comes to like the tangible change, it's not happening, right? And so I wanted to know why that was happening. And then it was also, that was kind of in the back of my mind. And then there was also a lot going on in like the years after COVID. I was listening to a lot of like the Conspirituality podcast, a lot of criticism of spirituality and New Age spirituality. I was, thinking about systemic racism. I was thinking about all of these things, and like, how do I reconcile the fact that teachings like something as simple as the law of attraction, right? Like what you focus on expands, like that has helped me in my life. I've had like real tangible evidence that that does make a difference, right? But how do I square that with systemic issues? The fact that where our collective consciousness is also influences what outcomes we can create in our lives. So these were the kinds of things that were spinning in my head. Like, how do I help people that seem to circle around one thing again and again? And also, how do I use like energetics and spiritual principles and coaching and all of this while also putting it into the context of our larger ecosystem and not like throwing that out the window? With illness, yeah, like sometimes it's energetic and sometimes it's gotten to a point where we're at the point of physical law where like you just need the surgery, right? Like you're not gonna meditate your way out of that one. You need a surgery. And I wanted to be a person that could guide people on all of those levels.
Cool. Very cool. Because yeah, there are things that obviously you and I are aware of. I mean, maybe listeners too are aware that we have so many layers to our being. So like maybe solving something on a mental level isn't actually changing how the body is, or exercising and getting fit doesn't actually change how you view yourself or whatever, like I can think of a million examples. So I've never been like really into talk therapy. Like
Yes.
it's not gonna create the lasting transformation I'm looking for, right? So we have to kind of go deeper and look at like all the layers. And it sounds like that's kind of what this work is about.
Yeah. And what surprised me about it is like that was the context of it coming together. And then also, as I was trying to put these things together or trying to understand them, really, I met someone who passed away last year, but she was a great friend. And we had a really amazing, like, her name was Tara. And she was like a shamanic practitioner, did a lot of ancestral healing. And so we met, she lived up the street for a few months, and we would meet weekly and we would trade sessions. And it was like, once I met her, it opened up a whole other world of like ancestral healing, past life healing. And it was as if like what she had learned kind of just like translated to me somehow. And then I started seeing that in the wheel work that I was doing with people. I hadn't really named it that yet, but yeah, we would need to go back into someone's ancestral stories, or even to like the very first incarnation of their soul and an event that happened or a theme that their soul is working with through lifetimes. And that's one of the things that I also think is different about wheel work, or it acknowledges that like the long story of our lives. And there's so much we can learn from those stories. Like if you're going through something in your life, but then you hear it reflected in a different story, whether it's an ancestor or a past life or whatever it is, you can see it from outside of yourself, and it gives you the context that you need to actually like integrate the knowledge that you need to move forward and make a different choice.
Great. So as an artist yourself, you work with artists or creative people and spiritual people. And through this work, so I know that a lot of creatives struggle with some of those things that like, just they're just in the same kind of cycle, whether that's like a cycle of burnout or addiction or self-sabotage. What do you see as the deepest like energetic root or like pattern that artists have?
I think it's really different for everyone. When I go and do a wheel work pattern with somebody, I can think of a few examples. Like someone might be working through not being able to build anything, right? Like I can do these projects, this project and that project and that project, but I can't really like turn it into something that grows, that can show up. Or I had a client that wanted to write novels, but she wasn't finding the motivation to actually sit down and do it. And
Hey, I'm gonna pause for just a minute because I really gotta tell you about this. If you're feeling called to go deeper on this work, and if you're a woman who loves making music or exploring sound, writing songs, and expressing yourself creatively, I'm leading a retreat in Mexico this summer. It's an intimate, immersive week of embodied healing and creative expansion. We'll have a professional recording studio on site. We'll be writing, producing, dancing, practicing yoga, meditating, swimming in the ocean, all the things. So really living inside our bodies and inside our art. If this is calling you, all the details are below. We have limited spots and we have early bird pricing, so go check it out. And if Mexico isn't happening for you right now, I also have a free nervous system regulation tool that you can explore at home in your own time. And if you're ready for something more structured, my full nervous system sorcery course is also available. Everything is linked below. All right, let's get back to the episode.
The root pattern we got to was I refuse to be seen from a lens. I refuse to be seen from a lens that isn't my truth. It was a very existential pattern. And he's like, I don't want to be seen if it's not my truth. And she was very spiritual. And she's like, I know my truth is as a multidimensional being. I'm not this body. I'm not this human. And so it was she couldn't get around that to then create something that could be seen and taken in by other people and judged or whatever, seen in this particular lens. So we worked through all of the things that were creating that so that she could become comfortable with it and have fun in being this human in this life, and expressing that way while not losing her spiritual core.
So that touches on something huge, I think, that is artists, but not just artists, a lot of people, just the whole concept of visibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just being seen or putting ourselves out there, whether that's creative work or just putting ourselves out there in any kind of a way. It's it's a huge obstacle for people. People would rather stay broke and poor than, be visible. or yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's witch wounds can come up, right? I've certainly had some of that. Even with doing the work that I do now, I never expected, I went to school for acting. I thought I was going to be a singer-songwriter. I had a health crisis at 22, lost my voice, couldn't sing without pain, right? And that sent me on my own healing journey, which is wild because, I was reading your website and I was different circumstances, but similar ages, similar health crisis sending you into a different kind of world of healing. And so I didn't ever want to be healing people's past lives or that's not what I ever thought I would be known for. And I'm even I'm about to break through it, but I've been grappling with it myself, these last few months of am I really, I've been doing this for a couple years now, this wheel work specifically. So much of it includes soul level issues, ancestry, past lives. Do I want to be known for that? And I've kind of been I don't know that I do, but I also don't feel like I have a choice. It's living me. This is what helps people. This is the medicine that I have to bring. So I'm just going to risk it and I'm going to go for it. And I can always change it later. If I decide, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go in this other direction and I'm going to channel messages from spirit babies and make it fiction. I could do that if I decide that I want to do it. But the truth is I will speak to women who've had miscarriages and I will channel their spirit baby and it helps them. And it's it's weird, but that's what I'm doing. So I might as well lean into it as authentically as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. And the people who are looking for this kind of work will resonate. And that's really what matters.
Yeah.
So when it comes to all of this more, ancestral stuff and past life healing, how do you balance all of that quote unquote woo-woo stuff? It's not woo-woo to me, but maybe to some people. How do you balance that with actual coaching and practical steps forward with people?
Well, that's what's wild is because literally almost every time there's something for my client, but almost every time the parallels are just immediately clear. They'll laugh and be oh yeah, right. That story you just told me about from someone that I was, the human that I was, generations ago. If we're thinking of time linearly, which I think is helpful to do. And like, I can see that. And I just did the same thing, except it was about, I didn't want to go, I moved because I didn't want to be in office with my corporate job. And then I let something take me off track because I thought it would save me money. And so I went over here when really I could have had everything I wanted if I just like held my ground. Right. And it'll be like, yeah, like that's exactly what happened, to you or an archetype, whatever, however you want to think about it in your ancestry, in a past life. That's exactly what happened, but it was in the Victorian era, and it was a girl who didn't want to be like presented to society because she didn't agree with that. So she ran away, even though if she would have stood her ground and showed up as herself, she actually would have gotten everything that she like wanted.
Yeah, it's so wild when we start to make these connections to like these ancestral layers, really. I think about myself and like the whole, I sometimes identify as like a wandering Jew because, I ended up, at least for the time being, not in the country where I was born. And so have my mother, and so have her parents, and so have their parents. And there's always been some kind of a reason or a threat or a reason to move away. But yeah, it's fascinating just the patterns and just like recognizing the patterns within this lifetime and deciding kind of what you want to do with it, I guess. Because there's good stuff too that we inherit ancestrally and energetically and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something for me that is around being seen. I always like to go into my will work more than my clients because I try to be vague about them because it just feels like so deep and personal. But I was having this like red rash on my chest, and I knew it had to do with my parents and with my dad. And I was thinking about my dad, and he will get red very often, like, his
Wait,
skin.
can I ask you, like, how did you know that had something to do with your parents?
Oh, that's a good question. So I use my wrist to ask yes or no questions. So the healing modality that I was trained in was called Universal Health Principles. It came out of Body Talk, if anybody's heard of that or experienced that. So Body Talk is really all about like, I'm tuned into someone's system and there's been stress and we need to connect things physically, energetically, emotionally, environmentally. And the mechanism it uses is I'm speaking to the innate intelligence of your body because it knows how to heal. It knows what's off. It knows what's not communicating so that your body can flow better, your life can flow better, all of these things. And so I did that for years. And then I realized that in the same way that I can ask with my wrist, where are we starting? Are we starting physically, emotionally, energetically, environmentally? Oh, we're going into the environment. Okay. Is it the inner environment or the outer environment? Oh, it's the outer environment. Okay. Is it like the birthplace? Is it a physical location? Is it like an organization? Okay, there's something about an organization. So then I might find organizations that a client is a part of, right? I can go in step by step using my wrist, getting yes, 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 or no, 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 but following the yeses until we get the exact thing that wants to be seen. So I realized that I could do that in other scenarios as well. I could be like, okay, here's my rash on my chest, right? Like, what is this? Is this now I have a map that I use related to wheel work. And I think that's what I used at that point. So I would go, is this related to soul purpose? Is this related to collective consciousness? Is this related to my human story? Oh, it's related to my human story. Okay. Is it my lifetime? Is it my ancestors? Oh, it's my ancestors. Okay. Mom, dad? Oh, it's my dad. All right. And then you just start to like put the pieces together by being in communication with the innate intelligence that knows, right? Some people probably call this like the Akashic record. I feel like that's sort of, at first I was working with the innate intelligence of an individual body. And then I felt like, oh no, sometimes I'm talking to the soul. And so I feel like I'm kind of accessing like the Akashic record of their soul.
Fascinating. So you use this modality to help you figure out, sorry, you were telling a story that started with the rash.
Yeah. So I was like, this is so annoying. Like, why is this happening? What's going on? And it sent me into this story of a past life of my dad. And essentially he was responsible for carrying out an execution, but not being the one that decided it needed to happen. So he's like, I'm the grunt man that's gonna make this happen for the emperor or whatever. And so in that role, he didn't take responsibility for that life, right? He's like, I didn't order this, I just have to do it because, right? But there's a theme around not taking responsibility. And that is also a theme in his current life, is, not taking responsibility for certain things that he should take responsibility for. But so there was just information comes to me. I don't really identify with the term like being a psychic because it feels so predictive, but psychic information, like, clairaudient, I'll hear things, claircognizant, I'll just know things and I can follow the story. And then I use my wrist to make sure that I'm on the right track. And so what I got for him was that his redness is like the body betraying him, because he's like, oh, don't look at me. I'm not the one. Like, I'm not responsible. I didn't do that bad thing, right? Like, I didn't have that person executed. Don't look at me. But his body is red. It's going, look at me. Like, I'm the one, right? Like, there's some kind of emotion. There's some kind of thing that's coming out through his skin. And the information for me was like, so much of my life has been about that integrity and being able to honestly say, I don't have anything to hide. I'm not trying to pull one over on you. I don't like, I care about your soul journey more than I care about me getting paid like a certain amount, like more than, like, it happens a lot with clients, right? Like, I'm here to guide you, and I would rather you do what's right for you than you pay me and then like I get what I want. I have to be, in order to do what I do, I have to be deeply in integrity with, this is what I'm getting, this is what I think could help, right? You have to make a decision from there. And I have to be just really like honorable about that. And so the lesson for me is, a lot through my life, my dad has taken up a lot of space because he has a really wild story. It's really exciting. You could probably write a movie about it, and so I will default often to talking about my dad. And it was like, no, like, Kerri, like, what you are doing is more interesting than what your dad is doing. You have to be the one that is saying, look at me, right? Like, I'm willing to be seen. I'm willing to be looked at. So you can hear what I have to say, because I'm not hiding anything, right? I'm not taking responsibility. I have something. And while it's not as salacious and wild and fascinating as my dad's life story, it is like where we want to grow, if we're growing into healing, if we're going into love, if we're growing into like true health and well-being.
So what you took from it is, I'm trying to see if I got it.
Yeah.
What you took from this was just being able to kind of shine your own energy, not be in the shadows. The whole idea of like, you got nothing to hide because you have integrity. Or what am I missing here?
No, I think it's that. And it's something I'm still like living into and understanding. It's like one of the pieces of wheel work that, because I don't have anyone to guide me, to like hold me in it, I'm kind of like having to play both roles, like the client and the practitioner. It's like, that's what I've taken so far from it, which is the rash is bringing to my attention that there's something, because for me, if I have a rash or I get red, I want to go, don't look at me. Right.
Okay. I missed that piece.
I didn't say that at the first time. So it's like, don't look at me. Right. But it's like, no. And then it just took me into this story with my dad to see the complexities and to see, like, if we want a healthier world, right? If we want things like true creativity and healing modalities and healthy relationships and healthy bodies and all of these things to be what the world is, then we have to put attention on them, right? Like, we have to be willing to be seen in them. Whereas my default would be like, oh, well, let me tell you about my dad. He did this crazy thing and he was in jail when I was growing up, and, he flew a plane and crashed it, and, all of these things, right? Like, that's salacious. It's interesting. It's, whatever. But it was like, no, Kerri, like, by doing that, you're saying that his story is more worthy than yours, right? When actually there's something deep about being able to stand in, like, wellness and stand in healing and stand in that being an interesting story.
Yeah, I hear that. Do you think we all have these capacities to tap into certain things like that?
The information.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I think a lot of people default to yes, like, everybody is psychic and everybody can do this. And I don't know. Like, I can't say that to be true. I think it's not a lot of people's sole purpose to do that. Like, that's not necessarily what they're working on. Can everybody connect to a deep knowing within their bodies? We all have the capacity to do that, right?
But it's maybe not. Yeah, that's actually a great answer, I think, because I don't know, that question, just asking you that kind of made me think about, the more traditional tribe and having a shaman, and that person is an elder who has maybe dedicated and devoted their lives to be in that place. So, like, maybe everyone can, like, work out all their stuff and, like, really dedicate their life to be in a good place to communicate with this,
the unseen,
the unseen, the behind the veil. So then you're talking about purpose. And it makes me want to ask you, do you believe that everyone has a destined purpose, or is it more about how you choose to align with what lights you up?
I think it's both. Soul purpose is on the wheel. So I will go into it for people. And I don't believe there's just one soul purpose. I believe there's often several, many. But when I go to it and I will channel the exact words that represent their soul purpose, it's really moving to people. And they go, yeah, right? And then what I believe, and part of how the wheel is constructed, comes from some of Kerri Parker's work with human design and how she separates the chart. So if you're familiar with human design, it's created from your birthday, right? The moment that you're born, but also 3 months before you're born. And that's what creates this unique chart that is related to Western astrology, but is different than astrology. And it tells you more information about how you move through the world, or a different kind of information about how you move through the world. And in traditional human design, all the information on the right side of the chart that's listed in black is said to be the mind, right? The conscious. And then everything on the left side of the chart, the red, that is calculated based on 3 months before you're born, which is when they say the neocortex forms in such a way that, and also like the soul can enter the body and those things. They say that's your body, that's the unconscious. And Kerri Parker, who studied with Ra, the founder of human design, calls it something a little different, but it's similar. And she would say the black, the day you're born, is your soul purpose. And the red, 3 months before you're born, is your human story. And so I started playing with that. And the idea that we have both things that are our soul purpose, that are more in our mind, more of who we think we are, And then we have our human story, more of our unconscious, sometimes our ancestry, and the things that are harder to see. And so in my work, I started using that theme to be like, okay, sometimes we have a soul purpose, but we also have a human story. So you might have wanted something for your human story. You wanted to experience being married or being single. You wanted to, as a human, master money. And that's part of your human story. Like someone might have a soul purpose that relates to money and abundance, right? But other people have it in their human story. So it's more like, it's a different kind of feeling, like what we want to be what we want at a deeper level to master as a human versus what our soul came here to express, to do, to be.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm glad we're getting into human design because I was going to ask you about it next. I am a generator, but I've never got an official reading. I just kind of like once in a while kind of looked more into it every time I had a little spark of curiosity. And so I don't know about all the details and all the numbers and the centers and all that stuff, but I know that I'm 5'2", the heretic Hermit. And the more I got into it, the more it made more and more and more sense. And I just started understanding myself so much better. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I love human design. It's funny because I hardly ever talk about it anymore, but it's such a foundation of my practice. Or it was for a long time. And now as I've moved into wheel work, a little bit less so. But if I'm going to guide anybody, I need to know their human design, right? Like I need to know how they're actually meant to make decisions, right? So I can help them feel their authority because I've never been steered wrong by my authority. And like it brought me to this house, like the timing of this house, the everything. If I would have waited 6 more months, we would not own a house. There's no, like, we just wouldn't, right? And it didn't make sense. It came out of the blue, but it was both me and my husband followed our authorities, his sacral, mine emotional. And we were like, yeah, I think we're leaving New York City and we're moving to Maine. And it's been the best decision we've ever made.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. So for people who don't know what authority means in human design, Can you just like explain a little bit?
Yeah, so authority in human design is basically your decision maker. So what human design says is there are strategies that each person has based on their flow of energy, like the natural energy flow in their body, that they can trust. And so authority is what do you access to make a decision that's right for you versus what everybody else is telling you to do.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think about just like your inner power, like your solar plexus and...
Well, solar plexus is one authority. Like that's my authority. I call it emotional colloquially, but it's solar plexus / emotional authority.
So the chakras are involved with the human design.
They are. So the chakra, like the 7 chakra system, was what humans used to be. This is what human design says. I think they're still useful now. I use them in other ways, but basically I forget the exact years. It's either like the 1600s or the 1700s. I can't remember when it split, but basically in human design, they say that we move from being 7-centered beings to 9-centered beings. So we take the 7 chakras and then I think the heart split into 2 different centers in the human design chart and the solar plexus split into 2. And it just gave us the ability to navigate from a more emotional place or a deeper place versus when we were 7-centered, it was way more about survival. And obviously that still applies, but it was like we're splitting so that there's so that we can connect to what's right for us in a larger sense versus we're just humans on the planet trying to figure out the elements and how to not die from tuberculosis, right? It was like this splits so that we can have a more like creative, emotional, spiritual adventure.
That makes sense to me. Here's a question. This is something like I've been wondering. It's not in my question document. Let's talk about manifestation for a second.
Mhm.
I find like a very delicate balance between exercising my own power to manifest my reality, which I have many times over.
Mhm.
That and then the complete opposite of full surrender of what life brings to you when you stop directing to any specific outcome
Mhm.
and just align your heart and your system, you know,
Mhm.
in whatever that means to people,
Mhm.
when you feel aligned and what that brings into your life.
Yeah. I think it's such a good inquiry, and I don't think that I have an answer. I just have more of my experience, which has been that I'd say earlier in my journey, I was more interested in manifestation and would have fun and would be like, oh, yeah, like these free plane tickets and, whatever, like things would happen. It was great. And I'm sure that I will have stages again where I go back to that. It doesn't like enter my mind in the same way or in the context of manifestation as much, though I will do things like just awareness of aligning with the outcome that I want, right? Say it's an income goal, or, I mean, I think that's like the most straightforward example. One thing that I've found really helpful is the idea of just being able to check in with yourself. And if I want to make this much money this month, right? Like I can take a moment to check in and be like, do I believe that's possible? Am I acting like I'm moving towards that? Have I totally let my mind take me off track and get in the way? Am I being distracted by what everybody else is saying about how bad the economy is? Like, yeah, those things are really happening. And the power of our focus is, it's powerful. And just noticing again and again, am I aligned with what I want or am I not aligned with what I want? I think is a useful practice. But, and also at the same time, the surrender, like magical things can happen in the surrender too. And so much of my like life and work is dedicated to healing. And I feel that for me and for some people, not everyone, like some people really are focused on the physical manifestation of a thing, and that's what their soul came here for, or that's what they wanted for their human story, and so it's aligned. And so when they focus on that thing, it feels aligned, it feels good, it gives them energy, right? But then I also think that there are people that are interested in the healing journey, right? In knowing and understanding and spiritual knowledge and personal knowledge and emotional knowledge. And so the forces kind of want to pull them in that direction, right? And there's something deep and important for them that they want at the deepest level, even more than they want to make 10K this month.
Yeah, that's something I think about a lot when we try to manifest something. It's actually we want to manifest a way of being or a way of feeling, and we think the 10K or the whatever physical, measurable goal will give us. But it's funny that if we do allow for some level of like widening the
Mm-hmm.
just being a little more flexible around the goal and just not not total surrender, but like allowing some level of surrender, like the result end up being kind of what we needed, kind of what we wanted,
Yep.
even though it didn't manifest exactly how we thought it was going to.
Yeah, totally. And I love that, what you said, like wider, because it's such a helpful cue for raising your frequency. Like we can think about like people criticize being high vibe, which I think I have a lot of thoughts about that, because what's interesting to me is I use the David Hawkins scale of consciousness a lot in my work. And it basically puts frequency on a scale from 0 to 1,000. And frequency starts getting sustainable once you reach level 200, which is courage. And so when people criticize being high vibe, I think it's funny because acceptance is 350. So what they're advocating for is acceptance. And that actually is like a high frequency sustainable energy, right? And they're kind of, I don't know, but it's semantics, but I like to get into the details. So I just think it's interesting. But to go back to what I was saying, like being wider automatically raises your frequency, right? Because if we're so focused on a goal and we have beliefs that mean we can't reach that, or right, like stuck emotional patterns or whatever, and we're focused on that goal, it's like those things are going to come up and come up and come up and come up. And sometimes that's the work you want to do. Yeah, I'm going to shift these beliefs. I'm going to feel those feelings. I'm going to do an EFT and tap it out and whatever until I feel like I believe that I can have that goal. But sometimes a better path is to just go be like, oh yeah, like I want more than enough money or whatever it is, and then go wider with it. And it lets the natural well-being that is in surrender, that is in acceptance of where you are, that is in the lighter states of like peace and potentially joy or, whatever it is, like sometimes going wider actually lets all of those good feelings in more quickly in a way that manifests in a better outcome.
Absolutely. Is there anything you would like to tell the listeners? I know you hold intensive arts containers. If you want to tell us what this is about or anything else that you want to let people know that you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm offering, one-on-one wheel work packages with people, and that's the like deep healing work around a particular pattern. And then this year I started playing with a program I'm calling Intensive Arts. It's a 30-day immersive challenge where you set a quote unquote unreasonable goal of hours spent in your writing, in your artistry, your music, or your thought leadership, your content, if you want to go the business route. And it's basically a way to have a set period of time where you choose what you want to focus on. And some people will keep it very open, kind of like we were just talking about, they'll keep it light and be like, I just want to be more creative. I want to get like my passion back for this thing that I used to love. So I don't want to make it like a specific thing that I have to do. I just want to open up that time, and I'll set my timer for an hour and 48 minutes or 42 minutes or 3 hours, like whatever you choose. And I'm going to let myself surrender into that creativity. And I love it when people take that approach, because it's fun and it does like lead to something that bubbles up rather than that came from your mind. But sometimes you've already decided, you've used your human design authority maybe to decide on a project that you want to do. You've like got a gut yes to something, or you feel really emotionally connected to something, and you have a specific outcome that you want. Like in June, I knew that I just needed some focus time to put out a song that I wrote and finally produced called Growing Like a Weed. And I was like, I need some focus time to make sure that I actually put this out, because otherwise I won't. Right. So it's basically an invitation to come in, to set a goal, to be with other like-minded, like creative, spiritually minded writers, artists, business owners, and like, yeah, let yourself surrender to the work that you really want to be doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I joined you in June for the intensive arts. And it's just amazing how just the community, or like the container of just being with other people, are like, we're going to decide what our craft is or not. Like you said, yeah, sometimes we just need a little bit of like hand holding or accountability or whatever you want to look at it.
Yeah.
To get us going. So if anyone's out there kind of want to get their creative work going and you've been procrastinating or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, find Kerri. And I love the name you had for it too. That was like a genius summer freak.
Oh yeah, I did a whole like genius freak summer, which included like 2 rounds of intensive arts and kind of a middle like healing, just feel good kind of hangout month. Yeah, I'm always doing something. I'm a manifestor in human design, so what I do often changes, or like the little programs that I offer. But I think I'm going to offer intensive arts at least a couple more times, and then we'll see. I never know what's going to happen after that. But yeah, I think it's a good experiment to figure out what works for you, and to see, how many hours a day or a week actually does feel good in my life. What's too much and what's too little. And then being able to just know that because you've actually experimented with it. And then kind of, we always change seasonally and things like that, but having a baseline that you actually feel good about.
Yeah, so important. Any last advice or anything for artists out there who could use a little support?
I think what's important for artists in the context of this conversation, like I'm working with someone right now that is amazingly talented at acting and writing, has a different career, and wants to, is taking the steps to really take the acting and writing more seriously, like to the degree of her talent. And she had a breakthrough recently around the writing side of it, and read me something, and it just like tore me down, it like tore me apart. And it was so good. And I think what's interesting that I've observed in my own self is that, writing and healing sometimes go together, but they also don't always go together, right? And sometimes when we do know a lot about how to make ourselves feel better, how to shift our state, we can do that and not actually create art from the emotional intensity that's there. And I don't think there's one answer for everybody, but I just do think it's important to keep in mind, because as I've healed, I do write less. And I don't write in the same emotional way that I used to. And that's okay. That's a choice that I've made. That's a correct choice for me. And I think sometimes you do have to choose where you want to send that, right? Like, is my priority creation right now? Or is my priority healing this right now? And creation always often leads to healing, or it can, right?
And vice versa.
Sometimes, yeah, it can. It can. But I think it changes. I used to never understand how people wrote fiction. And now I do, right? I was such I write about my life in songs, in spoken word poetry. I'm emotional. I'm all of these things. And it's like, I'm not anymore, like not in that same way. I'll write a song like once a year now, because that's the only time that the emotion takes me over that strongly, and that's a choice that I'm making, and that's right for me. But I also work with some people, and it's like, look, I'm not saying that you can't heal and be creative, but it is something to be aware of when you're using what to shift your state, and are like, yeah. And what is the right thing for you? Like, to be an artist, there's often emotionality involved, or you start writing a story about somebody else. Or I started collecting these poems. Like, I cut words out of books and make poems that way. And that really feels satisfying to me right now, because the poems aren't coming out of me in the same way that they were when I was 20 and messed up and in the head, and like those things it's not the same. And so, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel not nervous about sharing that, but wary, because I don't want to discourage anyone from healing. But I also think we do have different soul journeys, and it's not that you can't be healthy and be an artist, but as I've emerged and focused more on healing than on art, mostly, like that's been the direction it's gone in. And I'm probably going to write a book about all the findings from wheelwork, and that will be art. It's not the same kind of art that I used to make.
But it's creative work. I think this is that's a really important distinction. What you're saying, like, where do you create from, and how, and in what states, and what's more important now, the output or your own healing. I had someone I know from alchemical alignment, which is like another modality that I study and practice. This woman, Mina, who was a dancer, now she's more in the healing arts and nonlinear movement. We talked a lot about how we also don't need to create for anyone, or we don't the pressure that there is right now on artists to put yourself out there, like put it out, just do it, kind of a thing. It's like, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, I think it's like finding the thing that's that's true for you. And sometimes that changes. But anyway, I think I started talking about my client, and it's like, we've done a lot of healing work together, and some of that raw emotion wants for her individually, wants to be funneled into writing, wants to be funneled into personal essays. Because when she does that, it's devastating and it's impactful, to anyone that reads it, and it's super heartfelt for her. And it's like, for her, I don't want her to regulate out of every emotion, right? I want her to put it into the writing because that's also what she wants. It's what her soul wants. And will it lead to healing and the life she wants? I think it will, because it's aligned for her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I was trying to like stir myself up and write these emotional spoken word poems that like aren't real for me anymore, I couldn't. Right. That would fall flat.
Yeah. Like our creativity just kind of changes and evolves. And it's also fine distinction between like, okay, when is it just like not time for creative output, and when am I just held back by inner obstacles? Because a lot of people just have so much, I don't know, some people would call it resistance or like writer's blocks, or like a lot of people have like all these creative dreams, even if it's not your career. Like people just want to do stuff where they're like, oh, I always wanted to play guitar. Oh, I always wanted to write a book, I can think for myself of things I always wanted to do. Yeah. And then we have like so much in the way, which I think is kind of like the beginning of a whole other podcast episode. But if you have any things to say about that, then.
Yeah, because it's totally right. And that's why it's all about nuance and like that's so much of what my work is about, is like, what's exactly right for you right now. Right. And so for some people it is stop healing, get it on the page, darn it. Right. And for some people, even myself included, I'm thinking about the week before I recorded guitars for this EP, which the first song just got released this summer. I was really scared. Like the week before, I was like, I've hired this person, I bought their plane ticket, like, investing this money, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make something that I like. And I was crying about it to my husband the week before, being, and like there was an edge of me that was like, maybe should I call this off? Like, maybe I can't do this. But I had to go through that emotional turmoil, and then be like, back to acceptance. I have to accept where I am. That may be true. I may do all of this, and I might not be able to create something that I like, but I know that I'm supposed to do this. Right. And I think that's where it comes back to me, to like human design authority, is I am not confused that I need to record these songs. Like, it's not coming from ego. It's not coming from a place that's untrue. It's coming from, I wanted to do this a long time ago. I wasn't able to. I couldn't sing without pain. I've been on a long healing journey. And to me, it feels important to at least have, say, 3 to 6 songs that feel like me, that I really like, that express who I've become. I know that's right for me, right? So when you can connect to your authority, like that deeper knowing that doesn't feel like pressure, it just feels like truth, then you can know, right? You can know, well, this fear is coming up and I'm making me want to call this off, but let me talk to somebody. Let me like come back to this knowing, and let me have courage and show up for this thing, because ultimately I know it's right. And it was so hard to get that song out, but I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts. I'm like,
I know. I feel like we're just opening up now. I have time if you have time.
What I was going to say is that I know, when you're not doing the work you're meant to do, or you're kind of procrastinating. So 2 nights ago, I went to this book launch of Elizabeth Gilbert's new book. And that was extremely inspiring. It was one of those moments where I was like, I can't believe I almost didn't go to this thing. And she said she thinks everyone can write a book, which I was like, oh, yay, cool. I like that. And I recently started reading the book. And it's already like extremely inspiring. And she was talking about how she procrastinating writing the book, not exactly procrastinating, but it is about the story of her and her lover who passed away 7 years ago. But what I didn't know that she was talking about in that talk and during the book launch was that after her partner died, she kind of jumped straight into like work mode and found something like happy to write about. And she wrote like 2 books before she was actually able to like write this thing that she knew she had to write, that her late partner asked her to write. And, you know, eventually she did. And now it's just so beneficial, I'm sure, for her, has, you know, some liberation in that. But also, I just started reading it and I'm already like, holy shit, like I needed this. So it's fascinating. But what I also wanted to say about Liz Gilbert is just like, if anyone didn't watch her TED Talk, I really recommend, because she talks about something that like freaks me out sometimes, which is like the idea that comes to you to do something. And if you don't do it, eventually like it's just going to go away, and someone else will, and it's just going to go away to someone else, and someone else will execute that. And I feel like I've seen that happen when I didn't go after something I wanted to do for whatever reason, whatever obstacles I had to actually make that project happen. And then I saw someone else make that happen, and I was like, holy shit, like that idea just came and then it went, and then I found someone else to do it. Not that we can all have like similar ideas and we can all be creating. It's not a competition, but it's just like something I think about a lot. She talks about it in her TED Talk, like the muse kind of coming out of nowhere and like.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like an idea that wants to be born. And it's like, I can be born through you. I can be born through someone else. There's this great Joe Pug lyric, who's a wonderful songwriter. And he's like, yeah, it's like everything that you were meant for, everything that you were born to do does not need you to do it. Someone else was born to do it too. But like a half-grown man, you barely learn how to stand. When you shut up with what you've chosen, you'll hear something choosing you. And I think that that's interesting. It always breaks my heart. Like that first stanza of like, everything that you were meant for, everything you were born to do doesn't need you to do it. Someone else is born to do it too. And that would make me cry, especially when I was in the like healing part of my journey that was like, oh my God, like I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. Like I could have done it. Like my songs were that good. Like I was DIYing it. I was good at building an audience and a mailing list. And like, that was my whole plan when I was in my early 20s. And then I had this health crisis and I couldn't sing without pain. And it was because of a sexual assault and it was because of bulimia. And it was like, you got to heal all this stuff. And I think that made me sad to be like, oh, like other people are meant to do the thing that I really want to do and I can't. And, you know, all of that stuff. But then as I've grown older, that second stanza hits me harder. It's like, when you shut up with what you've chosen, you'll hear something choosing you. And when I really surrender and I'm like, yeah, like I am a talented songwriter, like that's just true. That's just a fact, right? But when I think about the 10,000 plus hours I've spent learning healing work, like doing healing work with clients, doing healing work with myself, reading, learning, all of that, it's like, I know what I've been really choosing at a deeper level and what has been choosing me all along. And I have to surrender to that because it's my life. Like it is my life if I'm true about it. And sometimes my mind can still get in the way and be like, wait, but what, you know, do you even want that? But it's like, no, something is choosing me. And it has led to some of the most beautiful moments of my life. And I do get to choose my relationship with music, right? Like I'm doing this sole purpose thing that has chosen me that I would not have chosen when I was 15 or 20 or 25 even, right? And what do I want? Like, do you want to record these songs? Do you want to put out music? Do you want to play shows? Do you want to do a one-woman show about human design? Like, do you want to lead this meditation for peace in America? Like, what do you want to do? You get to choose that. Like there's a mix of being chosen and choosing. And I think so much of my life has been about figuring out how to do both of those things.
That's beautiful and powerful. And I think like also a really great way to end this.
Yeah.
podcast. Kerri, thank you so much for coming and sharing all of this just beautiful wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If this episode resonated, send it to a friend, share it in your stories, or take a moment to rate the podcast and subscribe. It genuinely helps this little baby podcast grow organically and reach to the people that it needs to reach. I really appreciate every comment and every review. And as always, if you want to go deeper, my course, retreat, and free resources are all linked below. This is your healing era. Take care, and I'll see you next time.